Any comments, or I guess just plug for this province-wide municipal elections, November 19th. We've seen a lot of Gregor Robertson's face. So.
I'm personally a little biased on Gregor, but I know him personally, and obviously he's very committed to the same things I'm talking about here. He gets it, and I love mayors that actually do, and so I'm a big supporter of him, but I prefer not to get into too much political discussion in public forum, but maybe after we can talk about
my plans for getting out to vote on November 19th.
There you go, I like that one. Yeah.
Are there any Canadian clean tech areas or maybe even companies that you're particularly excited about that you guys would like to see?
Sure, actually there's one I just met with the other day I really like. It's a small startup called REV Technologies, R-E-V Technologies. And they have a vehicle-to-grid technology which essentially will allow electric vehicles or any plug-in vehicle to actually sell excess battery capacity, excess energy back to the grid during peak times. So they're estimating that an average EV user over a year would make about $500 to $1,000 in just extra money just by having their car send extra energy back during peak times. I love EV technology and vehicle-to-grid technology because it also allows for a major issue with accelerating the adoption of distributed energy. So when you have solar panels or you have wind turbines, a great example. There's a utility I spoke with recently that said that they have, last year, they had to burn off the equivalent of what would have powered 1 million homes for a year in excess wind capacity because there wasn't demand for the energy at the time they were generating it. Why? Because wind tends to blow more at night, which is when our peak load is down. So there's less demand for it. So because we have bad energy storage right now in the world, we don't have really good energy storage technology. That's an area that's really in need of innovation, and there's lots of companies working on this. Intermittent renewables are less attractive right now than they could be if we had better storage. And one thing I love about this whole vehicle-to-grid is it's not the only, but it's one way of looking at an innovative way of solving part of our energy storage problem. Because you could have the wind turbines at night powering plugged-in cars. When do people plug their cars in? At night when they're sleeping. So that's actually when demand is high for EVs, but is low for everything else. So they're getting intermittent renewable energy delivered to the car, and then they're actually, the car, when it's got excess capacity, is selling energy back to the grid during peak times, and the owner's getting some extra money. That's an example, one that I like. That's pretty cool. I haven't found that many local companies that are doing a lot specifically around adaptation. We have a lot of clean tech companies in Vancouver. Obviously, we're world-class in fuel cell technology. Green Energy Angels, they're based in this building. They're upstairs. They have a portfolio of green, clean tech companies. Chrysalix is another venture capital firm in town, one of the world-class firms in North America that invests in clean tech. We've got a lot of clean tech businesses. We have fewer people looking at the adaptation issue from a profit-making perspective. Yep.
Sometimes the cost of producing a good reduction in carbon use is free, or virtually free. Nobody seems to talk about or do anything about it. The things that come to mind is idling of engines.
Is what?
The idling of car and vehicle engines, which is actually becoming worse with the increasing use of cell phones throughout the world. Texting, people put their engines on and then they make a phone call or a text message. So what are your thoughts about that? And our beloved mayor believes in doing something but has reduced the enforcing staff from the idea.
Yeah. There's a report. There's a study that McKinsey has done that they're regularly updating. It's called the McKinsey abatement curve, and it's very interesting. McKinsey Consulting. It's very interesting to look at. They basically have. I have it on another slide, but. They basically look at what are all the opportunities to reduce emissions that actually make money right away. And a lot of them are efficiency related. This is really, your idling example is really an efficiency issue. It's happening in the corporate world actually more frequently now. Walmart has an idling program for their trucks now. Between their idling and their retrofitting of some of their buildings, they're projecting a $300 million annual savings. And idling is one of those. So companies are getting in the area, but I think it's been slower at the policy level to actually enforce things that are just no-brainers. I'd like to see more in building code as well in terms of enforcing, like example of the solar thermal ordinance in Barcelona, just requiring some of this stuff to happen, and it'll happen. Same with light bulbs, right? Like we should be outlawed to sell a regular light bulb in a store anymore. You should have to be able to buy a CFL, nothing else.
Can I challenge you on that one?
Yeah.
Especially in North America, we spent a fortune on saving that much energy by spending that much money on the compact fluorescent bulbs. Right? But even our LEED buildings, platinum or gold, and UBC has one, they maintain it at a very high temperature. And the money is, the savings are really in dropping the thermostat by a degree or two. Why do you think that?
You're saying that in
But we don't spend, we spend a lot of money achieving a small gain and ignore situations like that are free.
Well, I do agree that in general, and I mentioned this before about efficiency, while efficiency is the least sexy thing, and that's why it doesn't always get as much public attention, doesn't get as much press or even government funding, whereas you might find more government funding for energy storage or carbon CCS technology, carbon capture and storage technology, because they seem more sexy or more whatever. But really, the best gains are still, a lot of the best gains are in efficiency here. I wouldn't disagree. I think there's a major eco district in Portland that the developer came up to Vancouver a few years ago and talked about one of their buildings LEED Platinum, and he said, you know, we so overbuilt the technology side of this, whereas we could have gotten to LEED Platinum and done it with way less high tech, and it would have been cheaper with more passive design and just smarter design, rather than we got to just put all this cool, sexy technology in the building so we can show it off to everybody. So that was sort of one of his own lessons learned after the fact. I think we all get a little, I shouldn't say all of us, I am one. I've got an iPhone, an iPad, and a MacBook, so I get stuck in this wanting gadgets and cool technology. So I think that has something to do with it.
One more question, maybe?
Yeah.
I have a question about perception. I mean, I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate because everyone sitting here understands climate change and the impacts, but let's say for the general public,
Yeah.
how is that perception? I mean, you mentioned a very good example, you know, for the everyday person who has to spend extra money on something that's supposed to be good for the environment. How does it benefit them, and how can they see the value in that? And also from the private sector side, looking locally, how can they also see the return on investment of their investment on these sustainable carbon reducing methods or business models? Can you offer some solutions or challenges from the research that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. First, I would say I tend to downplay initiatives that are associated with consumers a little bit, because I think the issue is so big that we've got to attack it. Consumers have a role to play, don't get me wrong, but we kind of need to guide consumers in the right direction. And we need to do that through regulation, through what corporate action, through what municipalities do, rather than just rely on consumers figuring out that they should do this or convincing them that they should spend a little more. Companies need to develop products that have a value proposition for the customer that compel them to buy their product, which happens to be more sustainable than an alternative. Like 10 years ago, people used to think you could make products. I don't know if any of you guys remember, like 10, 12 years ago, you go to a grocery store and find like a recycled toilet paper products, right? And they're brown and they look very uncomfortable, but oh, they're made from recycled paper, so that's going to work. These are going to fly like hotcakes out of the grocery store because people just love the planet. Well, but people don't like rough paper for toilet paper. So you gotta actually provide real value to people. And in some cases, the product can be more valuable that because it's sustainable, not just because it makes me feel good it's sustainable, but because it adds real value to me. I got a hybrid car. I got it because I like hybrid technology, and of course it's what I do and everything else, but also I save money on gas. Now you have to do the modeling on how much does gas cost and how long you're going to have the car. I've had it 7 years now, so I've actually now made, plus I got the tax benefit from buying a hybrid car 6 or 7 years ago. But I've actually, made my money because there's a value proposition for me. I spend less money on gas. I have to go to the gas station less time. I don't know about you guys, I don't like going to gas stations and filling up all the time. So there's benefits to me for that one. So get to the point where they're producing products and services that are of equal or better value to the customer, given the price point they're charging, that are more sustainable, and consumers will make the choice because it's actually a better choice. I'll go back to the CFLs. If you think far enough ahead anyway, a CFL light bulb costs you 2 or 3 times as much, but lasts you 5 or 7 times longer. Meaning you have to go to the hardware store less times, meaning you're spending less money on energy and less money on light bulbs over time. So there are products and services that are out there that are already compelling value propositions, and they are more sustainable, and that's where we need to go on that. On local businesses, I mean, there's a company in town called Climate Smart. They do workshops with small companies, small, medium-sized businesses to help them figure out how to reduce their carbon footprint and make money from it. So all of their projects are focused on how can you save money and reduce your carbon footprint, and that's sort of